Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Grounded. We get real life topics from biblical perspective. My name is Brian Boyd. Tonight's topic is peace, and everyone, as always, I pray you had an amazing weekend. Before we dive into this episode tonight, please be sure to like and follow the Grounded podcast or whatever platform you happen to be listening on. And with that being said, y'all, let's talk about peace. And this is more or less another continuation from last week's episode titled Change, where I basically talked about how we deal with struggles in life and we deal with these things regularly, whether this is a conflict that we have with somebody that we know or a coworker or family member, to maybe going through certain situations such as not having the money to pay our bills or being tired with life, or maybe the car breakdown, just random petty stuff, but also very serious things can happen at the same time. And while I did talk about how to overcome those things and how to learn how to plan and get through these particular struggles, I didn't talk about the mindset that comes with this, because if you don't have the mindset of contentment, if you don't have the mindset of peace, then it's going to be all the more difficult for you to get through those situations. And I dare say that if you don't have that ability and you don't have that belief that you can make it through every situation, that everything is going to be all right, there may be some cases where you may not make it through. And tonight, just to touch on that, I want to talk to you all about peace and how you can achieve this peace. And to do so, I'm going to be coming from John 14 and 27. And just a quick backstory on this particular verse right here. This is from the words of Jesus himself, and he's getting ready at this point to go back up to the Father in heaven. This is after, he was raised from the dead, and now he has got up with all power in his hand. And before he leaves, he charges his disciples with a few things. And in the verse before, he said that he would leave them the Comforter, the Holy Spirit, the one that's supposed to lead them and guide them and teach all things. And in this particular verse, he's going to leave their peace with them. And to explain this, John 14 and 27 reads that peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid. And to break up what this peace means and exactly how they're supposed to use this, we're going to break up the first piece of this verse. And it reads once again, that peace I leave with you and my peace I give to you. And in this particular context, peace is defined in the Greek and the Hebrew as the word prosperity, the word quietness, rest, and calmness. This is the type of peace that Jesus is talking about. And the huge thing to note here is that it's not just any peace that he's giving them. It's not just any prosperity or calmness, but it's the peace that he has. It's the peace that he dealt with when he was here on this earth, the peace that allowed him to come on this earth, the peace that allowed him to take in his disciples, knowing that one of them was going to betray him, the peace that allowed him to go and preach and teach and heal and deliver people that were all throughout the known world at that time. The same peace that caused him to withstand, the temptations of being battered and bruised and despised by the very people that he came to save. This is the peace that Jesus is talking about. And this is ultimately the peace that allowed him to endure the struggles that he was on the cross. And not to turn this into a sermon or anything like that, but I want to get the fact across of this is the type of peace that Jesus is talking about, the literal peace to withstand any and everything that came his way. And while I know, like in our particular faith, we talk a lot about Jesus being on the cross, I think one of the things that we overlook is the struggles that he went through before he went on the cross, because Jesus went through a lot of stuff, y'all. Like a lot of the stuff that goes on in today's time that we struggle with and all, having people talk behind our back, people do things to us, people always talking about us and just doing us wrong, man. This is the same stuff Jesus went through. This is the same exact stuff. And as the Bible says, there's nothing new under the sun. And also that no servant is greater than his Lord. So if all of those things happen to him and he's supposed to be the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, what more is going to happen to us on this earth, to you and me, And to say all of this, this is the type of peace that he had. This is the type of faith and contentment that he had, that regardless of what happened, regardless of what those people said, regardless of what those people did, and regardless of the things that was happening to him from the outside in, he was able to bear and withstand all of the things that are happening. And it's that same peace that he was able to endure everything with that he gives to every person that receives it. And to go even further and to jump on into the second part of this, where you happen to have this peace in you, whatever, you have to understand first that this is your peace. that he's giving you this peace, and all you have to do to establish this peace and to use this peace is to realize that you have it. And it's that old saying, you don't know what you don't know, or you can't use what you don't know you already have. And if you know that you have this peace, if you have the ability to withstand, the trials and the tribulations that are going to come and the struggles that you endure in this world, then you'll be able to get through the things that you're going through all the more easier. But you have to realize once again that you already have that peace. Now, to move on to the second point and the second piece of this verse, it reads that I do not give to you as the world gives. And, to take this a bit further and to break this down, when you look at the world's definition of peace, or if you look up the term of world peace, most people think about a society where everything is essentially perfect. You envision a place where everybody is prosperous, everybody is rich, there's no fighting, no conflict, no struggle, no worries about how you're going to provide for yourself and people. Everything is just perfect. Everything is aligned. And the thing that comes up with that definition of peace is the reality that, as people, we live in an imperfect world. The definition of world peace in itself is an illusion, because there are always going to be disagreements. There are always going to be things that we have to do. There are always going to be things we have to pay for and take care of. And there are always going to be challenges that we endure in life. And I'm not saying that we can't have great lives. We can't have productive lives. But what I'm saying is the vision that we can all have world peace, or that there can be complete peace in our lives, in itself is truly an illusion. And as long as we live on this earth with other people and we all have difference of opinions and beliefs and all of those things, there's going to always be conflict. There's going to always be struggle. There's going to always be confrontation. But there's nothing wrong with that in nature. But I say all that to say that the peace that God gives us is the peace that's literally the opposite of what we believe true peace really is. And that is the peace that, going back to the first point, that you're able to withstand and go through any situation that you're going in. And the beautiful thing about that peace is because you understand that these things happen and that these things are part of life, you're able to be content with the situation that you're in, because you realize that these things, while they come and challenge you and test you, they don't last forever. They have to expire. These things have to end. That's truly what the peace of God is. There's no need to get discouraged when you understand that, as it says in Romans 8:28, and that might be my favorite verse now. Y'all got to use it a bit, that all things will work out for your good. When you understand even the bad things that come will ultimately work out for you, that you already won the game, and all you have to do is keep going and moving forward until you get over that hump, then you understand that, everything is good. The world is going to be good, and your situation is going to be fine. And you shouldn't look at the things and judge your current situation off of the things that you're going through, but rather the stuff that's coming ahead. And when you realize that and you understand that, that's the peace that overcomes you, the peace that keeps you calm, the peace that keeps you prosperous, the peace that keeps you, tranquil no matter what you're going through. And this is the peace that Jesus had, the same peace, once again, that allowed him to endure all these things on the earth and to overcome them. But with that being said, y'all, this is the type of peace that Jesus is offering us. And, this is something that, as us as individuals, that if we all got this level of peace, then, we would be able to endure so much and overcome so much in this world. A lot of the depression and anxiety and things that we get from when these challenges come and arise against us, we would be able to overcome and realize that those are just part of the world that we're in. Those struggles are things that have to happen, but we understand at that point that these struggles don't last forever. These struggles have to end at some point in time. And when you realize that, once again, you understand that you have this peace, you'll be able to conquer anything, literally. But, to move on to the last point, it says in this last piece of the verse that do not let your hearts be troubled and do not be afraid. And when you look at this particular part of the verse, it kind of goes off of what I was just saying. When you understand that these things will happen in life, you can't be moved by them, because You're literally grounded, no pun intended, in every situation. And when I think of this, I think about Matthew 7, verses 24 through 25. And it reads that anyone who listens to my teachings and follow is like a wise person who builds his house on solid rock. And though the rain came in torrents and the floodwaters rise against the winds and beat against that house, it won't collapse because it's built on bedrock. And what Jesus is basically saying here, once again, this is a parable that he gave his disciples, but he's saying that when you understand the foundation of life, when you realize that as long as you're with God and he's in control of everything, that nothing can truly harm you, you'll be like a house that's built on a solid foundation. While things may come, while storms may come and beat against you, while you may be moved this way, left and right, you will be unmovable. The house will never fall because the house is built on something that can't be destroyed. It's built on something that can't be moved. And going back to that, this is the peace that God is talking about. Because when you have this peace, your emotions, the things that you would do, the things that you would think and act upon, they're unaffected by these situations. You won't even get into a state to where you may make a rash decision or you may be overwhelmed with the things that come because you understand, once again, that these things happen in life. And because you have this peace and you have this understanding, you're able to keep doing what you're doing. You're able to keep going in the same direction that you were going in, and you will be much closer to the things that you're supposed to go after and the things that you're supposed to accomplish. And the opposite of this is Matthew 7, 26 through 27, because it says here, at anyone who hears my teaching and does not obey it is foolish, like a person who builds his house on sand. And when the rains came and the floods came and the winds beat against that house, it will collapse with a mighty crash. And this represents the people who don't have this peace, the people who don't have these understandings. And Jesus is saying here that if you hear these teachings and you don't obey these things, basically, if you don't believe in him and you don't trust that the peace that he's giving you will be able to get you through these situations, then you'll be on the rocky foundation. You'll be on the foundation where you'll go back and forth with the wind and you'll eventually crash, because you're not grounded, once again, no pun intended, by the situation that is coming. When bad things happen, you start to get into a mindset. You may get depressed. You may fall into anxiety, and you may be in a situation where you're so overcome by those feelings and those emotions that you can't clearly plan your way out. You can't clearly see your way out. And because you can't see that way out, then you succumb to the situation. But here, once again, if we go back to the beginning of this, you understand that if you have this peace that God is asking you, that God is giving you, and if you just listen and follow him within that peace, then you know that you're always going to come out on top. You know that you're always going to be able to overcome every situation. It doesn't matter how hard or how difficult or how big that thing may be. All of this stuff will work out for you in the end. And you just have to trust that you have this level of peace. And once again, this is a peace that the world simply cannot give you, because the illusion of world peace itself is truly that. It's an illusion. You can't, nothing will ever be perfect. You'll have a great life. You may have a home. You may have a family. You may be doing the things that you love to do, but there are always going to be challenges somewhere. There's always going to be a next level for you to go to. And as long as those levels and those challenges exist, you're always going to be in the tug of war. You're always going to be in the pool to do something greater. And when you move to something greater, there are always going to be things and challenges that you're going to be faced with along the way. But when you realize, once again, and you understand that you have the gift of peace, that you have the gift of prosperity and tranquility and calmness to deal with these situations and these challenges as they come, there'll be nothing you won't be able to do. And with that being said, y'all, that pretty much concludes this episode. And if I could leave you all on one thing, it's to understand that, you already have the gift of peace. You already have the mindset. You already have the belief that you can get through any and every situation. And all you have to do to unlock that peace is simply have the faith to believe that you have this peace, to simply believe that when challenges come for you in life, when you're faced with difficult situations and possibilities and opportunities, to realize that you will be able to overcome those things. And when you have that peace, when you have that state of mind that you can conquer anything, you will be able to go through those things unscratched. And even going back to something my granddad used to always say, he used to say that when you face with situations in life, the worst possible thing that you could do is lose your self-control, to lose your temper, and to just succumb to the situation. Because when you do that and you start acting on emotion instead of logic and faith, you tend to self-destruct. And by self-destruct, I mean that you will tend to make decisions and do things that you wouldn't normally do. And because you make those decisions, it starts to trickle down. It's a domino effect. And it may leave you worse off than you would have been if you would have just stayed calm, understand that the situations come and that you will be okay. You will overcome those things. And when you do, there will be nothing that you won't be able to accomplish. But with that being said, y'all, I'm about to get off here. I hope you enjoyed this episode tonight. If you did, please be sure once again to like and share this across whatever platform you're listening on. And just keep tuning in. Looking forward to some stuff coming soon. Y'all got a lot of announcements coming up. But in the meantime, I appreciate you all. I love you all. And I will see you all next week. All right. My name is Brian Boyd. I'm signing off. Peace.